Thank you. Okay, so in the Sidurim on page 284, in English page 285, well actually let's look at 286 first, okay, and 287. Now in 286 and 287 we list in Hebrew and in English, today is 1 day of the Omer, today is 2 days of the Omer, etc. Now, on the Hebrew, which doesn't show in the English, on the left-hand side of that column, over here, we have all these terms being listed. Chesed shebechesed, Gevura shebechesed, Tiferet shebechesed. The first 7 all end with Chesed. The next 7 all end with Gevura, then Tiferet, then Netzach, then Hod, then Yesod, then Malchut. These are somewhat Kabbalistic terms that we will discuss on a simple level, because that's all I understand it. Okay? These are Kabbalistic terms. The idea of the Sefirah is that we are ascending, we are counting up, we are climbing. And where we were the day before, we discussed previously that we don't count down to Shavuot, to the holiday of Shavuot. Count down 10, 9, 8, 7. When you get down to 0, you got nothing left. Here the whole idea is meant to be counting up. It's building up. We gave the parable that a person is building a 50-story building. He doesn't count down to the 50th floor. He counts up to the 50th floor. Because understanding is, without floors 1 through 49, one can't have floor number 50. So counting down would seem to be, oh, now we're there. It's not just presto, now we're there. There needs to be a building up process. On 284 and on page 285, let's look at 285 in the English. On the very last paragraph, we have a special supplication that is made for Sefirat HaOmer. We say, Master of the universe, you commanded us through Moses, your servant, to count the Omer. To count the Omer count in order to cleanse us from our incrustations. These are all Kabbalistic terms of evil and from our contaminations. As you've written in your Torah, you are to count from the morrow of the rest day, from the day you brought the Omer offering that is waved. There are to be 7 complete weeks. Until the morrow of the 7th week, you are to count 50 days, so that the souls of your people Israel be cleansed of their contamination. Therefore, may it be your will, Hashem, our God, and the God of our forefathers, then the merit of the Omer count that I have counted today, may they be corrected whatever blemish I have caused in the Sefirah, and then we insert the appropriate Sefirah. So what we have over here is, in this supplication here, we would insert those words that are found in the Hebrew side there, the Chesed Shebechesed. Today is the 23rd day, so we insert Gevura Shebenetzach. Gevura, power, in that which is Netzach, conquest or eternity. We'll discuss these terms soon. But we see that these Kabbalistic terms actually are inserted each night. The individual term of that Sefirah is inserted. May I be cleansed and sanctified with the holiness of above, and through this may abundant bounty flow in all the worlds. And may it correct our lives, spirits, souls, from all sediment and blemish. Again, these are all Kabbalistic terms. May it cleanse us and sanctify us with your exalted holiness. Amen, Selah. So that is the tefillah. Now, most of our tefillot in our RCA art scroll are not very Kabbalistic. Right? Those are for different types of sidurim that are not meant for the Hamon Am, for the general populace. Yet when it comes to Sefirat HaOmer, this Kabbalistic prayer and concept has made its way into our regular sidurim, because this lies at the foundation of what it is that we are doing. So let us start to try to get a better understanding. We know there are many dimensions of Sefirat HaOmer. Most basically, it links the Yetziat Mitzrayim, Exodus from Egypt, and it links it to the time of the giving of the Torah. Also, there are aspects of Avelut, of mourning, as we mourn the deaths of Rabbi Akiva's 24,000 students, along with other tragedies that transpired later in history. We mentioned, I believe, last time, that we had a bit of an anomaly when we were counting Rosh Chodesh Iyar, the first of the month of Iyar, and we were counting that in the month of Nisan. Therefore, by all rights, we should not have been said the prayer Av Harachamim, which speaks about those who had been murdered. We don't say anything. We didn't say it the whole month of Nisan, and we normally don't say it on the Shabbat that we are welcoming in the new month. Yet on this Shabbat, we did say it. The reason being that this was a time of terrible pogroms and crusades, and therefore that this tefillah, this prayer, was composed for, actually was what's took place during these times. Therefore, we do mention it. Both of these aspects of the movement from Exodus of Egypt to Sinai, receiving the Torah, and the deaths of Rabbi Akiva's students, all point towards this idea that this is a time for spiritual growth and character refinement. Now, we have ourselves 7 sets of 7 as we make our way through to Shavuot. So the first source we have from Rabbi Yaakov Haber, who explains, number 1, mankind was created in the image of God. Right? That's a term of the Torah itself. B'tselem Elokim, in the image of God. What does that mean? So one of the tenets of our belief system is that God does not have any physicality whatsoever. And any verses throughout Scripture, throughout all of Tanakh, is only called anthropomorphism, giving God human or traits that don't really apply to him, in order for us to be able to relate to what it is. So God stretching out his hand over Egypt is a display. When I stretch out my arm, that is a display of my force, of my strength, of my control. So such terminology is used by God in regard to God, in order for us for it to resonate with us. So therefore, the image of God has nothing to do with our physical image, but rather it has to do with our character that has godly potential. The Sefirot are a mystical revelation of God's quote-unquote character. The Sefirot represent our finite understanding of the infinite, and I'll take it a step further. It's that which God chose to share with us through the prophets and through the different transmission through the generations of not who and what God is, but how he relates and connects to us. There are 10 Sefirot with which God created and interacts with the world. 10, we know, is a major number in our religion. There were 10 plagues. There were 10 commandments. There were 10 utterances through which God created the world. And all of these, each of these align with the 10 Sefirot, these 10 understandings that were shared with us. Right? We know that once there is a minyan, a quorum of 10, we know that is when that disparate group of people becomes a unit. It's no longer individuals, but rather it has melded into a completely different unit. So there are 10 spheres with which God created and interacts with the world. And they are Chachma, Bina, Da'at. The highest 3 are referred to as Chachma, wisdom, Bina, understanding, Da'at, knowledge. And it is from that the Lubavitcher Hasidim take the name of their group. They call themselves Chabad. Lubavitcher Hasidim call themselves Chabad. That's the acronym of Chachma, Bina, Da'at, which is the top, the highest three levels. And then, as these Sefirot work their way down into the world, we have the lower seven, which are Chagat, Nahi, and Malchut. Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, which we will try to explain somewhat in a little bit. It's on our source sheets. Chesed, we'll call that kindness. Gevura, which is strength or limitations. Tiferet, glory, we'll see. Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut. Malchut is royalty. These 10 Sefirot are divided into two categories. The three upper Sefirot, Chachma, Bina, and Dat, and the lower seven. Okay? That is why, right, our tefillin, we have the 7 lower wraps that go in the lower arm. All of this is representative of these Kabbalistic concepts. Ida.
How do Mitnagdim view this whole Sefirah interpretation?
Oh, this is part of Judaism. The question then would be, who learns this and when? Okay, but these are all foundational principles of so much of what we do. There's no conflict. The conflict is how mainstream do we make it? Let's put it like that. And in the general world, this has become a lot more opened up in the relatively recent times, meaning the past 20, 30, 40 years. This one has become a lot more opened up. It is the lower 7 Sefirot we focus on during the 7 weeks of Sefirat HaOmer. Okay? That is what we are focusing on, and that is what these Kabbalistic terms are referring to. Now, part of our regular tefillah, our regular davening, on page 140 in our Sidurim, whenever we take out the Sefer Torah, we quote psukim from Divrei Hayamim, from Chronicles. Right? Over there, the second paragraph or the third paragraph, if we count that bold line as the second paragraph, we say, L'cha Hashem, ha'gedula, v'ha'gevura, v'ha'tiferet, v'ha'netzach, v'ha'hod. Yours, Hashem, is greatness, strength, splendor, triumph, glory. Kichol bashamayim uva'aretz, even everything that is in heaven and earth. L'cha Hashem hamamlacha. To you, Hashem, is the kingdom, and the sovereignty, l'chol l'rosh, over every leader. Therefore, Romamu Hashem Elokeinu, let us exalt Hashem, our God, etc. If you noticed, we just listed basically, exactly 6 of the 7 and alluded to the one that wasn't listed. Right? We have L'cha Hashem HaGedula. Gedula, greatness, that refers to Chesed. Gevura is Gevura, strength. Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, eternity, glory. Kichol bashamayim uva'aretz, everything that is in heavens and earth, that refers to Yesod. L'cha Hashem hamamlacha. To you, Hashem, is the kingship, is the royalty. So this pasuk, our understanding, our knowledge of the 7 Sefirot, is found right here in this pasuk, in this verse of Tanakh. But how does it connect to our improving ourselves? So let's go back again to Rabbi Yaakov Haber, source number 3. For as much as the Sefirot reveal about God himself, they also hold the key to understanding what it means to have been created in God's image. Okay? If it's sharing, shedding, revealing, and understanding about God, it is in as much as it helps us to understand what it means to be B'Tselem Elokim in God's image. And just as we must apply a unified understanding to the personality of God, right? God is not these disparate. As I mentioned, 10 always becomes a new unit of 1. We must strive to round out our own personality with the lesson of each Sefirah. Therefore, the keys to our opening, maintaining, and repairing our relationship with God are bound up in an understanding these Sefirot. Our goal, therefore, during these 49 days is to examine how each of the Sefirot affects our connection to God, our relationship with each other, and our understanding of ourselves. And I would just add that it's our understanding of ourselves that really opens the way to our relationships with others and our relationship with God. So let's see now. So once again, if you just take a look on the Sefirah page on 284, for those who follow in Hebrew, 286, you see we're listing these 7. Just look from day 1 down. The first word is Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. And then again, Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. We're going through this system 7 times, but the first 7 are Chesed of Chesed and Gevura of Chesed and Tiferet of Chesed, right? So just to put it numerically, it's 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, 1, 7, 1. It's the 7 aspects in that first level. Now we reach level number 2. The second word now, the second level is Gevura. And now we're going to have the Chagat Nehi of that, right? On the second floor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The third floor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on till we reach the 7th floor. Right, so that's what we start off. The very top is Chesed Shebe Chesed, and the very last one is Malchut Shebe Malchut. We go from 1, 1, so to speak, numerically speaking, to 7, 7.
What was the phrase you said? The Mechi or something?
The Chagat Nehi is the first letters of each of those. That's just a shorter way of saying it. Okay. So the 7 weeks of the Omer correspond to the 7 Sefirot that we have. We understand the first week is the week of Chesed. The second one is that of Gevura, third one, right? And then each week is divided up into 7 days, each one being each of those levels of that greater level of Chesed. So here we have on the second page of the notes, we have a bit of a description of just 1 second. Okay, so it comes out then that number 4, Rav Gedal Yeshua. Good. Okay, Rav Gedal Yeshua is the author of the Or Gedalyahu, which is a very beautiful and deep book, Sefer, that goes through the holidays and the holidays and the weekly Shabbos readings. And I had the privilege of hearing shiurim from his son in Muncie. He would speak weekly at the Or Sameach in Muncie when I was living there. So he writes, the days of Sefirat HaOmer are a time to rectify character attributes. First week, attribute of Chesed, right? That love, that should be appropriate. The love of God and the love of friends. Second week, is attribute of strength, the attribute of fear or awe of God. And similarly with all 3 weeks. So let's see a little bit of what we can understand or try to understand of these different attributes. Yes?
Isn't Deborah sometimes rendered as discipline? You know?
So let's see. Okay. So as we mentioned, each day of the week has its specific place within the framework, because each of the 7 Sefirah contains elements of all 7. That's the progression that we saw in the way that it's written out on page 286. Chesed, loving kindness. The attribute which diffuses benevolence to all without limit. Creation itself is an act of chesed. As it is stated, the world was built, olam chesed yibaneh. The world was built with chesed. It's also called greatness, gedula. Actually, in our Amidah, when we say Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu, Avraham, etc., Hakel HaGadol, when we speak about God as being Gadol, great, that is a reference to His kindness. For life issues from Him to an unlimited number of worlds and creatures. As we learn from Avraham, it is the nature of the benevolent to do goodness. Avraham embodied chesed. He was the paradigm of endless loving kindness. His tent was open on all sides. He extended the warmest hospitality to all. It was limitless. Now, that is why Avraham was not happy about sending away Yishmael. He needed the prodding of Sarah and God telling Avraham to listen to Sarah. Avraham was chesed, chesed, chesed. Also very interesting. In this week's parsha, in the parsha that we have this week, we speak about the forbidden sexual relationships, the incest relationships. And what seems to be astounding, but with this paragraph we have an understanding. The Torah refers to them using the word chesed. Chesed. Why? How could the term chesed be used for a forbidden, intimate relationship?
Doesn't have to have some good giving, and here they're giving.
Okay, so chesed is a limitless giving.
Yeah.
A giving without restraints. Acts of intimacy are an act of giving, or should be an act of giving. When there's no restraint at all, then it spills over into beyond the parameters that they are meant to be held within, and it just spills over. There are no parameters.
Rabbi,
Yes.
it's interesting that for life issues from Him to an unlimited number of worlds and creatures. We are seeing that now. They are tracing scientifically specks that are smaller than specks that are small, that have universes in them.
Yeah.
And we're just discovering that.
Yeah.
Limitless.
Yeah, and we have no clue what's really out there, what's really in here, right? On the macro and on the micro level, right? We just keep discovering more and more and more and more.
The more they discover, the more they realize they haven't learned it.
Yeah. So that is chesed. Now, where chesed is boundless, gevura is the attribute of restraint. Has the power and ability to limit and contract. In the act of creation, gevura conceals from the created beings the activating force within them. Interesting. This enables them to exist as tangible entities instead of being utterly nullified within their source. The patriarch Isaac is paralleled with gevura due to the dominance of this sphere within him. He restrained his emotions magnificently at the Akedah. So gevura comes to limit. Right? On one level, if we were fully aware of the activating force within us from our Creator, then how can we ever think of doing something that goes against the will of our Creator? How do we have this autonomy? How do we have this existence as a tangible entity without being utterly nullified? Right? That is why the greatest challenge for Avraham was not opening up his tent for the passers-by. It was Akedat Yitzchak. And God's response afterwards is, now I know, not that you love me, that was never a question. Now I know, Ki Yarei Elokim Ata. Now I know that you fear God, that there are limitations, that your chesed is not just this unfettered overflow, but you know also there needs to be this sense of awe before God. Gevurah is also called law and judgment, din. Judgment demands that chesed be distributed justly in proportion to the recipient's merit and not in a boundless, gratuitous fashion. Without Gevurah, chesed would not have the boundaries needed in order for creation to exist. In terms of humanity, if chesed was dominant, the earth would be full of sinners, since love would cover all iniquity. Right? As Ida mentioned, let's look at our bodies. Right? When there is unfettered growth, what do we call that?
Cancer.
That's cancer. The body needs to decide this yes, this no. Right? Even fascinating, the womb. The womb, the Hebrew word for a woman's womb is the rechem.
Rachamim.
Right? Which comes from rachamim, compassion. Certainly that is where life is found, but the womb is a very discerning place. And many children are aborted by the body because they see a miscarriage is basically the body saying, this is not going to work. There is this discerning aspect. If Gevurah was dominant, no man could withstand the scrutiny of judgment. Both Chesed and Gevurah operate successfully through a mediating faculty, and that is the Sefirah of Tiferet. Tiferet blends Chesed and Gevurah with harmonious and beautiful results. It can be compared to a garment dyed with many colors and blended in such a way that give rise to beauty and decoration. Within man, it is equated with the attribute of compassion. That's the Rechem. That's Tiferet. That was that of Yaakov, of Jacob. Whereas Chesed would give even to a person whose compassion is not at all appropriate, Tiferet seeks to pity a person to whom compassion is appropriate, and then to extend benevolence to him as well, regardless of worthiness. Tiferet is also equated with truth, emet, in the sense that both Chesed and Gevurah agree to its flow. That is why I'm sure many of you have seen these different Kabbalistic renderings of a human being, right? And the upper three midot are represented in the head, the Chachma, Bina, V'dat. The next ones, we have Chesed on the right, we have Gevurah on the left, and then Tiferet is as it then flows down. That's where the two meld, the two come together, right? We are instructed to first put on our right shoe, right garments, before our left garments. Chesed precedes Gevurah, right? We have, right, our tefillin have the two straps that come down in front of us, right? Tomorrow morning, note that the right one is longer than the left one. The right one is Chesed. The left one is Gevurah. We want Chesed to precede. We want that to be the stronger of the two. That's why most people are righties. The right hand is stronger. That represents, right? And even for lefties, that becomes their right when it comes to a lot of halacha, when it comes to holding the lulav and etrog. And then what happens? These two straps are knotted together, right? And that's what then reaches the highest points. It is this combination of chesed and gevura. That is the tiferet. Yes, Dov?
When I'm thinking, if we do the Sefirah properly and get to Shavuot, does that put us at the door, gateway or doorstep of the upper three? It seems like that's what it's going to do.
I don't think you can reach it.
Yeah.
It's reaching.
I'm not sure what to say about that.
I don't think it's going upward, right?
Yeah.
I think it's coming down. So if
Right.
anything, it puts us at the gateway of the Shekhinah, which connects
Yeah, but I think
Hashem to
because-
us.
because
Yeah.
The upper
Yeah.
three is
Yeah, that was my
going through
hesitation.
all the other-
Right, thematically, and if we're going to map it out, right, it's coming to the point of bringing it all together and being able to pass it on,
Yeah.
which is what happens over
Oh,
there.
interesting.
The next three Sefirot are Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. These three are extensions of Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferet. Netzach is an extension of Chesed, Hod is that of Gvura, and Yesod is that of Tiferet. The word Netzach comes from the word Menatseach, meaning to conquer or overcome. Netzach therefore denotes the idea of dominance. By giving in an unlimited way, one is overwhelming the other. And in this respect, it is an extension of Chesed. Hod is just the opposite. Being an extension of Gvura, it denotes restraint to the point of submission. Hod stems from the word Hoda'ah, meaning to thank, admit, or submit. Right? Total dominance over another is a Netzach relationship. Total submission is a Hod relationship. Yesod balances the two, facilitates communication, and is therefore the foundation of the world in terms of working outward and dealing with others. In summary, Chesed denotes unlimited giving. Gevura, unlimited restraint. Tiferet is harmonious blend. Netzach and Hod adapt the influence for transmission, and Yesod transmits with deep attachment. Right? We understand again in the thematic drawing, Yesod is the sexual organ. That's where that is. That's where that is aligned. That is transmitting with deep attachment, as we said. That's why we say a tzaddik is Yesod Olam, and those who are called tzaddik are those who have been tested when it comes to morality, sexual issues. We call Yosef HaTzadik, Joseph the tzaddik. Why? Because Yosef's great test was in the impropriety and the advances of the wife of Potiphar. The 10th Sefirah is called Malchut. Essentially, Malchut is the receiver or recipient of influence from the higher Sefirot, and, as you said, Alan, then ready to pass it on, right, to bring it all together and to put it into play.
That's
Yes.
10 or 7?
Sorry?
It says here the 10th. Is that 10th or 7?
Yeah, because 3, and then we just did the 7. The top 3 we didn't discuss.
Right.
So this is the 7th, which is the 10th, right?
Oh, okay.
So when we say Todah, we're submitting?
Well, it's interesting. I was asked to speak once at a Sheva Brachot, right? And it was, I don't know if it was much of a Sheva Brachot. There weren't too many brachot being said, right? But it was a gathering of people who were not all that affiliated. So I wanted to serve a message to them. So I said to them, what would you say are the 3 most important statements in a marriage? Let me put that out to you.
Trust.
No, but things that one says in a marriage.
Thank you.
Thank you is one. I agree. Sorry?
I love you.
I love you. I agree.
Bevakasha?
Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, so that was
I'm sorry is the 3rd. right? And I said what's fascinating is that each of those are all contained in the same word in Hebrew. Okay? The word modeh. Modeh means thank you. Modeh means I admit that I was not. Right? And modeh also it also comes from praising. I see the positive in you. Okay? These are all fundamentals. How do we get started on this? Someone just said something?
That's why we start the day with it.
Yeah.
Somebody said todah.
Yeah. So these are all, right? It's this acknowledging, right? Acknowledging my place. And therefore, I acknowledge what you bring to the table, and I praise that, right? I acknowledge what you've done for me, and I thank you, and I acknowledge the things that I've done wrong, right? And therefore, I apologize to you. Okay. So again, yes. So these are the bottom 7. Right? We had the top 3. That's our 10. The Baal HaTanya, right? That is from one of the earliest, I think, perhaps even the earliest of the rabbis of the Lubavitcher movement, and they are very big on learning Tanya. To them, that is a must. But in order to get to this high level, one must count the counting of the Omer. This is what it means. Count 50 days. That the contemplation of the greatness of the infinite one, blessed is He, is 49 different aspects. Alluded to in the verse we had before, to you guard the greatness, which are the 7 midot. Each one of them in turn is made up of 7, totaling 49. The 50th gate is the upper gate, which includes all the aspects. And everything in this is contained within the 49 aspects, which are united to a single entity. Right? And that is this tefillah, this prayer that we say at the end of the Sefirah each day. And each day has its role and its place in this ascent. That's the number 6, the Ribono Shel Olam. Number 6, sorry.
So
Okay.
After Harachaman, we are supposed to continue? Because sometimes when we count, we don't.
What one needs to say is the bracha and the counting. Right? After that, right, you're on your own. Right? It's like Shema at night. You say Shema, you say Hamapil. It's actually about 10 pages in the Sidur. Right? But this is part of it. It certainly is. It's on the page.
Really?
Yes, though.
I think their diagram's wrong because we went in Egypt to the 49th level of Truma, so we must be going up.
We're definitely going up. It's definitely meant to ascend.
So
right?
We're fixing that problem there?
Yes. Okay, another approach that I do want to share with you is a little more earthly approach. And we actually did this one year on Shavuot. We went through all of this on Shavuot night with presentations.
Oh, yeah.
And that is, we have the Mishnah in Avot that the Torah is acquired through 48 qualities, 48 attributes in order to acquire Torah. And the days of the Omer are also designed for us to acquire these attributes. That's the Mishnah in Avot. 48 ways, that there are qualities which are study, attentive listening, saying one's studies aloud, intuitive understanding, discernment, awe of teachers, fear of heaven, humility, joy, purity, serving the wise, being close with fellow students, evaluative discussion with fellow students, calmness, knowledge of Tanakh, knowledge of Mishnah, moderation in business activity, moderation in worldly activity, moderation in physical pleasure, moderation in sleep, moderation in speech, moderation in merry-making, slowness to anger, having a good heart, amunat chachamim, faith in the sages, accepting yisurim, difficulties, knowing one's place, being happy with what one has, making a fence around one's words, not boasting, endearing oneself to others, loving God, loving his creatures, loving righteousness, loving justice, loving to have one's mistakes corrected. That's always not always so easy. Right? Keeping far from honor, not being arrogant about one's knowledge, not enjoying making a lucky decision, understanding that it's a heavy responsibility, sharing another person's troubles, judging others positively. That's in this week's parsha. We'll be discussing that. Setting them in the path of truth, setting them in the path of peace, teaching calmly, asking and answering, listening, adding insight, studying in order to teach, studying in order to do the mitzvot, making one's teacher wiser, reflecting over one's lessons, repeating an idea in the name of the person who said it first. For we learned that whoever repeats an idea brings redemption, that Esther told the king in Mordechai's name. What did she tell the king in Mordechai's name? What did Esther tell Achashverosh in the name of Mordechai? The assassination plot of Bigtan and Teresh. So Rav Aaron Kotler, right, writes that the days of counting the Omer are days of preparation for the giving of the Torah. Acquiring Torah depends on the 48 ways Torah is acquired. It is like all other things, which can only be acquired through the appropriate mechanism. Therefore, it is clear that the way to prepare is through these 48 ways. Right? He mentions Rav Chaim, right? Rav Chaim of Brisk, who went into the depths of the mechanical analysis of how everything works. And if you want to acquire something, there's certain modes of acquisition for land, for movable objects, and that's the way that a transfer of ownership takes place. So too when it comes to the Torah, these are the ways that the Kinyan will actually take place. 48 days correspond to the 48 ways the Torah is acquired. 49th day is the day of completion of purity and preparation for receiving the Torah. This, of course, is connected to our Sefirat HaOmer.
So, similarly,
Maybe just hold it a little bit and let me just finish up. It's getting a little bit late, and then I'll take the questions afterwards, or the observations. Okay. Lastly, right, it's important to know that the days between Pesach and Shavuot are greatly sanctified. During these days, the sanctity increases continuously until the day of the giving of the Torah. And during these days, every Jew will find heavenly divine assistance in fixing ourselves, sanctifying ourselves, purifying ourselves. They are awesome days at the heights of the worlds we've explained. Ancient sources tell us these days are a sign for the rest of the year. The person who learns much Torah, does many mitzvot, then we act that way from the beginning of the year until the end, and the opposite could also hold true. And Rav Noach Weinberg of blessed memory, the legendary founder of both Or Sameach and Eishar Torah, and many credit him with the initiation of the Baal Tshuva movement as we know it. See, he has a beautiful series on these 48 ways. You can go to aish.com and you can find it over there. He has a beautiful lecture, right, on each of these 48 ways. He calls it the 48 ways to wisdom, right, and shows how it's towards acquiring Torah, how it is towards acquiring, helping us in everyone's quest towards a meaningful and productive life. Okay, we'll call it over here. Everybody, let's get ready to bench. Yes, Janet.
so both because Hashem told Bnei Yisroel to refrain from intimacy, so to recap our being at Ciner, and also from what it says in sources 7 and 8, why are we not enjoined from intimacies? In other words, like the 49th day, why aren't we refraining from marital intimacies?
Why aren't we?
Yeah, because remember Bnei Yisroel said do not have congress like that. God commanded it, and
for the 3 days before.
Yeah, and then also for it's the case here that it's increasing purity and sanctity.
So we have certain times, the night of Yom Kippur, the night of Tisha B'Av, where marital intimacy is absolutely prohibited, right? There are other times when when normally best to try to refrain, but we don't look for added restrictions in those areas.
Okay.
We look to have healthy expressions in those areas. Yeah. Okay, my friends, we'll call it over here.
Sometimes it just doesn't seem consistent, based on what you read in the book. That's how I only